Okay, let's see. Prepare live stream. That's what I like to see. It's what I like to see. Gonna get that. That's all thing. I'm watching here. Oh, I think we are cooking. Yes, sir. Wow, the live stream got up and running much faster than I expected. Super, folks. I had a little bit of a technical issue off the start. We are now rocking and rolling and ready to go. And if I had told you a month ago or 2 weeks ago that Indiana, during a 5-game losing streak, suspending 5 players, would win? Forget make, would win in the NCAA tournament, you would have laughed in my face. And well, Hoosier fans, Indiana won against Wyoming. For those of you that have a financial interest, they covered against Wyoming. And now Indiana moves on to the round of 64. We're going to dive into what we loved in IU's win over the Wyoming Cowboys, dive into this matchup against St. Mary's, and so much more here on episode 246 of the Hoosiers Sound, where I'm your host, Nithin Krishnan. Here with me tonight is my normal podcast co-host, Matt Lukens. Matt, we were talking a little bit before we started. I loved the gritty defensive performance of the Hoosiers. You said it was a little ugly for your liking. What are your thoughts on Indiana's 8-point win to advance to the Thursday part of the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, you said it was beautiful. I'm very confused about where you're coming from on that, because what I watched was disgusting, but it was a beautiful outcome because the Hoosiers now can say they are officially in the dance. They were officially in the dance. Let's not. I saw some people try to make the argument that making the first 4 is not making the NCAA tournament. You've made the NCAA tournament. You made the first 4. It's the bracket of 68 teams, a field of 68 teams, not the field of 64. So for me, that's fine. I'm here for the Hoosiers making the tournament. I'm extremely happy that they're here and that they're going to be playing St. Mary's tomorrow. I am not happy at the NCAA about travel situations, so that's something we can talk about here in a second. But anyways, like last night's victory, last night, if you were sleeping under a rock, it was 66-58 over Wyoming. And to be honest, I'm not even going to lie to you, Nithin. I thought we were cursed because every time we got it to 8 points, something would happen and Wyoming would cut it back to 6 points. But Wyoming never got it within more than 3 points, basically the entire second half. The closest they got was about 3 points. Then IU pulled away again. IU was pretty dominant and pretty in control. On a night in which we could not buy a 3-pointer, on a night in which Race Thompson played the worst game of his entire career at IU, and on a night in which Trey Galloway fouls out on 3 of the most abysmal foul calls I've ever seen, we still won by 8 and covered. So it was a beautiful outcome in what was a absolute dumpster fire rolling down a hill in a snowball into a town of innocent children on Christmas.
No. Oh my gosh. What a morbid picture. This was beautiful. That was an excellent performance by Indiana. You guys, everyone who's upset, you guys get spoiled by the Golden State Warriors of the world, okay? The Hoosiers went into this game with a plan, with a clear-cut strategy, and it was work through our superstar, lean on our great defense, and help that guide the team to victory. Everyone was committed. Everyone was engaged. The shots weren't falling, and I'd be the first one to admit that I'd like to have seen a few more fall in. But from day one, Mike Woodson has preached defense, defense, defense. And Indiana delivered in an NCAA tournament a game against a good team in Wyoming, and I absolutely loved it. On the flip side, I saw a Wyoming game plan and strategy that completely blew my mind. And I understand that Graham Ike is a great post and has gotten Wyoming to where they are today. But it was evident in the first 5 minutes of that game, he had zero chance against Trayce Jackson Davis. No shot. Zero.
He didn't. You're right.
He could have had 4 arms. He would not have scored on Trayce Jackson Davis.
Okay, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves.
And the fact of the matter is what happened to Wyoming yesterday was that they got Big Ten. They got Power 5. They got high majored. Indiana was bigger, stronger, faster, and more skilled than Wyoming, 1-5. And that's why the Hoosiers won. It reminded me a little bit, honestly, of why the Archie Miller stuff did not work at Indiana. Wyoming's offense and their X's and O's work in a great mid-major conference in the Mountain West.
Yeah.
But when you fight against the big boys in the heavyweights, unless you get a big run of three-point luck or unless you make pretty sharp adjustments on the fly, you end up seeing a game like this. I strongly believe if Mike Woodson was under more scoreboard pressure, under more threat, you would have seen more wrinkles in IU's game plan. But Woodson, to me, said, I'm going to make Wyoming. I'm going to force Wyoming's hand to change their style of play. And Wyoming never did. And it resulted in EK missing a bunch of shots in the post, resulted in Hunter Maldonado turning it over 10 times. And Indiana now walks into the Thursday part. Trayce Jackson Davis was unbelievable, Matt. He scored at least 21 in each of his last 4 games. He scored 29 against the Wyoming Cowboys. He's playing the best basketball of his career right now, and it's not close.
Yeah, it seems weird that like a week and a half ago we were talking about was Trayce still injured from the Nebraska game
because it was the first half of the Michigan game in the Big Ten tournament. I'm like, what?
Yeah, exactly. It was basically 3 games ago, which Trayce turned it up, and at the best time of the year. Now, Trayce is also going to have a heyday against St. Mary's, but that is a preview that is coming on up later this podcast. Some shout outs last night to some performances. Jordan Geronimo.
Oh, unbelievable.
That's the Jordan Geronimo that I expected to see going into this year. And then when we saw some glimpses of it throughout the year, he can do that every game. I'm not even gonna lie, that performance is so replicable for him. That he just sits in the dunker spot, dunks it. He's like a better shooting Justin Smith. And it's nice. He doesn't have to do anything. This team doesn't need somebody that can handle the ball. We have people that can handle the ball, don't get me wrong. So right. I like Geronimo going out there and being an energy guy. It's great. I would like to see him come in with Galloway off the bench. I saw a lot of people grilling Galloway on Twitter last night, rightfully so, because he needs to develop a 3-point shot. Other than that, half the fouls were stupid. That was one of the worst officiated games I have ever seen. How with all those fouls, IU was not in the bonus with like 5 minutes or whatever, 2 minutes left or whatever it was. Like how with like 3 or 4 possessions left of the game, we weren't in the bonus yet. I have no idea. How Parker Stewart got 37 minutes, I have no idea. Parker Stewart played more minutes than Trayce Jackson Davis that game.
Hold on.
That's true.
I think I lost you for a second, Matt. Keep going.
Parker Stewart had 37. Trayce had 36. 4 big minutes from Michael Durb, by the way. He actually did. He gave 2 fouls, basically. But yeah, Parker Stewart played 37 minutes last night. I was remarking to the people I was watching the game with, and I was like, when is our 3-point shooters, Miller Kopp, Parker Stewart?
I know.
and fantasy.
Yeah.
When are they gonna make a three? Because
it never happened.
I feel like it's been forever since we had a shooter make a three. Geronimo, I want him to keep shooting threes. I think his form looks great. And then Tamar Bates, I thought should have gotten maybe a look or two from three that game, but it is what it is. 3 players score in double digits. 6 players in the game score. We had 10 people play, and 3 of them were scoreless. But you know what?
It's fine.
I saw a lot of people online complaining about how we won, which that's our job. Okay. That's our job. We have an hour-long podcast where we can complain and nitpick about stuff. All right. I don't want to see after a tournament win. A tournament win. Right. It does not matter how we win the game. It's just that we win the game. It's survive in advance. It's
exactly.
March.
Well, and I think, and don't, nothing wrong with being critical, but from my end, I really want to emphasize how stellar of a defensive performance it was. I think it's very difficult, even nowadays when I do feel like basketball players are a little bit more careless with the ball. It is very difficult to force a good team like Wyoming into giving the ball away 19 times. Okay.
That was their season high, by the way.
And by the way, that's a Wyoming team that played 1 seed Arizona earlier this season. Okay. And so they're not a walkover quad 4 type team. They're a very well-versed, well-practiced, well-prepared basketball team that Indiana completely smothered. I like the points he made about Kopp, Stewart, and the other perimeter players on Indiana, include Galloway in there, who missed a couple of threes. Even then, when Indiana shot 2 of 13 from downtown, they won by 8. And you can expect, whether it's Thursday against St. Mary's, perhaps Saturday in the round of 32, if Indiana gets there, that 3-point shot will become a more critical part of the offense. Although it is interesting, St. Mary's does limit teams' 3-point attempts. Overall, though, Matt, it's interesting, right? And this is something that kept me up for a little bit last night. Otherwise, it was a pretty easy sleep after Indiana's win.
True.
Jordan Geronimo played just 19 minutes. Yet
should have played more.
Yet 15 points and 7 rebounds. But this is the interesting question to me, right? Do you think, as you evaluate Geronimo, and I know you watched every second of every game this season,
yep,
do you think he's someone who is better off being an impactful player in short bursts? Or do you think this is a player who has earned 28, 30, 32 minutes as part of this rotation?
No, I think he needs energy. So normally he only can play one position. Like he's not a small forward. He's not in there to be a small forward on offense, nor is he in there to guard small forwards on defense. You saw last night he got murdered when he guarded Maldonado. Race Thompson plays that spot, and Race Thompson does not normally play like he played last night. All right, last night
2 for 9.
2 for 9, and I was remarking on a stretch at one point where he had like turnover, foul, missed shot, missed the rebound, fumbled it out of bounds. Like back to back plays where I was like, he can't do anything right tonight. And we still won without him, and he's our second best player. So, look, like I said, back to the question. Geronimo plays for Race Thompson, get Race Thompson minutes on the bench. I think they should split from now on, like 60-40. Race should be in there because I want them both to be 100% super focused and ready when it comes to the last minutes of the game, because you can put either of them in for any situation. It's just nice to have the luxury of having quality depth, and that's what Geronimo brings.
Oh, absolutely. And to me, what really stands out about Geronimo's game is, as I've watched him develop from day one, which was, by the way, the start of last season, right? The 2019-20 season was the 2020-21 season was his first year. The cerebral aspect of his game has really grown, especially this season. I see someone who yesterday, and obviously most recent game stands out the most, but I remember him doing this even in the non-conference part of the schedule this year. Find the correct spot in the defense where he can capitalize the most. Maybe sometimes it's just off to the side of the lane. Other times it's on a dive to the rim. You saw when yesterday Wyoming adjusted, Geronimo stepped out, tried a couple of threes, made one just to break the ice a little bit from downtown. And so that aspect of his game has really grown, and the energy hasn't gone away. I mean, you saw him. What I would recommend Hoosier fans do, whether it's tonight or even after the St. Mary's game, it doesn't matter. When you go back and you watch highlights of Geronimo's putback dunks, rewind 5 or 6 seconds before that dunk happened. I remember the one in transition. He's not running sort of full speed beeline to the rim. He's managing his pace as he gets to that putback slam. He's managing his path to the rim as he gets to the putback slam. And it was just that one that stood up, but it happened on the other two as well. The creativity and the maneuvering he does in order to get those dunks, it's a skill. It's not just a matter of being Johnny or I guess Jordan on the spot here in this case. So overall, I love what I'm seeing out of Geronimo. And this is what's exciting. We talked about this during the Big Ten tournament. When you can rely on your bench in a tournament game, it frees up the starter to maybe play more in the following game. And this could very well be a chance for Trayce Thompson, or of course, Finney's not a starter, but you might see him get more playing time against St. Mary's. Well, now those guys have a little bit fresher legs, especially in this environment where Indiana's traveling across the country and playing in very quick succession. So overall, Matt, I was really impressed with Indiana's performance against Wyoming. Talk to me, though, just a little bit more about Xavier Johnson. He's not somebody we've discussed yet. The numbers are interesting, right? 10 points, 3 of 12, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, team high plus 10. When you watch Xavier Johnson play for the 32 minutes he played against Wyoming, what stood out to you? What did you like? What did you dislike going into Indiana's biggest game of the season on Thursday night?
I think I saw a guy that knew what the game plan was when he went in, which was get it to Trayce, and didn't at points try to do too much and then would rein it back in. So, for instance, I think he had one jump shot where he just pulled up in transition and shot a 3-pointer, and I nearly tore my hair out because I'm like,
I know what you're talking about.
That is literally the Devontae Green shot that drove everybody insane. Like, because you go from the program that goes from Yogi Ferrell to then Devontae Green to now Xavier Johnson. Like we're a little traumatized from pull up threes in transition.
Just a little.
And so I thought he picked the spots really well. He played the game like a point guard should. He ended up with 7 assists. And I was going to remark on this earlier. I thought hopefully against St. Mary's, we have a much higher assist to shot make ratio because it was like 28 makes. It was like 28 makes to like 10 assists, which is never great. Like you always want to be about even on that. So again, I thought Xavier picked his spots. There wasn't really much he could do because Wyoming, I know you said, we're more athletic than them. We were faster than them. It's true. We weren't taller than them.
It's true.
Okay. They had way more length inside.
Like more muscular, but not muscular.
No, not taller. Because their shortest guy they started was 6'5". It was like 6'5", 6'7", 6'7", 6'9", 6'10", the starting lineup. I looked at that and I said, how are we going to drive on them? Like, that's an NBA team. Yeah. Like, it's very hard to get into the lane, and you saw that, so Xavier was kind of neutralized last night in his offense because he didn't get the space to when he gets in past his guy. He beats his man at the top of the key. He gets inside. You have 2 people collapsing on you that have 6'7" wingspans. Like that's just hard to get a shot off on. So he was not able to do a ton offensively last night. He did what he could. He hit a 3-pointer, which was really nice. One of our only 2 that we hit.
Him and Geronimo, yeah.
Him and Geronimo that hit it all game. But he picked his spots and he was just out there and he brought energy in a game in which we needed that. And then on defense, he always plays really good defense.
Well, and that's the point I wanted to make, because as Indiana fans watch this team more and more and just watch basketball more and more, IU fans are really smart. IU fans are one of the smarter fan bases, if you ask me, when it comes to sort of understanding what's happening in the game. The one aspect where I think Hoosier fans have a tough time really understanding this concept is that don't you can play well without shooting well.
Yes.
Okay, you can play well without shooting well, and vice versa too. You can have
nobody in the state of Indiana ever misses a jump shot.
And I get it, right? But but when it's all said and done, by the way, on the flip side, you can absolutely shoot well in a game and not play well.
Yes.
And Xavier Johnson, multiple times this season, has had games where he's taking shots. Yeah, they're not falling. Don't even get me started on the weirdness with the basketball last night. I'm not even going to get into it. But he's somebody who contributes in so many different ways. You see the 4 boards, the 7 assists. Again, it's reflected in the +10. Xavier Johnson, I believe, was something like +25 during the Big Ten tournament, either at the top or very close to the top for Indiana over the course of the weekend where Indiana changed their season. And so that's an instance where I know plus minus has its weaknesses, but the statistic does match the production that you see out of Johnson. And make no mistake about it, when he's off the floor, yesterday at least, Indiana was outscored by 2 points. So that's exactly where I sit here and I say you are just going to have to stomach some of the missed shots because Indiana cannot be without Johnson. And I think that's what Mike Woodson understands. And how great is it to have a coach and a coaching staff that has their finger on the pulse of the team and the pulse of the game, right? Woodson against Michigan saw Jordan Geronimo play well. And so we're going to ride with Jordan Geronimo over Race Thompson. It helped Indiana come back from 17 down against the Wolverines. He saw Trayce Jackson Davis. He was working the post against Graham Ike. Late in the second half, you saw a couple of dives to the rim where Johnson lobbed one to Jackson Davis for an alley-oop. Jackson Davis caught one side of the lane, threw down a dunk as well, attacking downhill. You saw yesterday 2 players who didn't shoot very well, Xavier Johnson and Parker Stewart, get 32 and 37 minutes respectively, simply because Mike Woodson had that instinct that said those players right now are helping our team win, even though the shots aren't falling. Yesterday, Stewart, if you ask me, had his best defensive game of the year. The way he was able to move around the court on the defensive side of the ball, communicate with his teammates, force turnovers. I thought Parker Stewart had an exceptional game, even though the shot wasn't falling. Matt, I mean, how valuable is this? Maybe just zoom out beyond the tournament itself. But going forward, Indiana fans can feel confident, right? Knowing that it's Mike Woodson and it's Dane Fife and it's Kenya Hunter and Yasir Rosemont, unless one of the assistants moves on for a head coaching job at some point.
Yeah, I feel like this staff is the right staff. I feel like the program's absolutely going in the right direction. And hey, you know, anything can happen next year with players coming back. I think the door is open to a lot of people coming back, and we could have a very special team in our hands next year if that is the case. However, I wouldn't get your hopes up too high for that, of course, because the NBA is always coming and knocking.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, look, Mike Woodson's the right guy. Dane Fife's going to be here. Azir Roseman is going to keep recruiting Georgia. And I think we get the Kenya Hunter's going to be doing Kenya Hunter things, you know. So I think we're in good hands. That's all I'm saying. And they did something last night. Well, first off, they did something before that. They beat Purdue, which the Archie Miller staff did not do. Then they beat Illinois, which is something
that Michigan in the middle.
Beat Michigan as well as something the Archie staff didn't really do very well. And then
Archie Miller never beat Michigan.
Right. Then they won a Big Ten tournament game or 2, which Archie Miller's staff did do in the 4 years they're here. And then they made the tournament, which the Archie Miller staff did do in the 4 years they're here. And then they won a tournament game, which in order to win a tournament game, you have to make the tournament, which is something that Archie Miller's staff didn't do. So in the course of not even, because he was, in 1 year, exactly 1 year, he has taken the program and done everything that was asked of him. So I would like you guys to look me in the eyes and be nice to him on Twitter, okay? And the interwebs and the recruiting boards and the messaging boards. Mike Woodson's our coach. He's done what we asked him to do. We're not going to fire him. I don't want to see anybody talking about firing him. I don't even want, it's fine. Yes, we don't have Brad Stevens. That's fine. I don't care. All right. I don't care. We can also forgive Jeff Goodman and all the national media people for being wrong, because guess what? National media people tend to be wrong a lot of the time at Andy Katz. So we just let it go. Kumbaya. We'll hopefully beat St. Mary's tomorrow and play UCLA on Saturday.
There you go. And hopefully play Akron on Saturday. I'll take that. But all I'm saying
I want the UCLA matchup. I feel like that would be fantastic. That's a good game. And if you win that, then IU gets to go, we're UCLA now.
Give me Akron. But all I'm saying is you're absolutely right. The coaching staff is not something you need to be concerned about, which is such a relief as someone who's watched this program in detailed fashion since 2009. And I know many of you have paid close attention for a lot longer. It's very encouraging. I would say the Indiana staff, intellectually, from a competence standpoint, is at its strongest point since Bob Knight left the program. And
I would argue
because
since Dan Dockich is not on the staff,
you can argue the Mike Davis run to the NCAA tournament. Mike Davis is a great coach. Of course, Tom Crean had some good years there early in his tenure, in the middle of his tenure. But as far as I'm concerned, for this to be year one, where you won 21 games, which is more than you've won since 2016, that to me says a lot about where this program is in the first year. And I can't wait to see where this thing goes down the road. Of course, the first priority for the Hoosiers next is Thursday's game against St. Mary's. We're going to dive into that matchup in just a moment. But first, it's time for Who Won the Week this past week in IU sports. And we can't ignore, and we won't ignore, the fact that the IU women's basketball program got what they deserved on Selection Sunday night: a home round of 64 and a home round of 32 opportunity, as the Hoosiers will take on Charlotte Saturday afternoon. And if they win, it seems like the following opponent will be Kentucky on Monday. And if you don't know, Indiana faced Kentucky in the non-conference part of the schedule, and the Hoosiers beat the Wildcats. Now, Kentucky has a superstar guard in Ryan Howard. She's had some pointed quotes at the Hoosiers well ahead of a potential Monday matchup. So there is that rivalry feel in the air. Of course, both Indiana and Kentucky have to win a game on Saturday in order to get that matchup on Monday. It's a really tough draw for Indiana. Kentucky was but they went ahead and won the SEC tournament in the build-up to March Madness after a disappointing regular season, which included that loss to IU. The Hoosiers, if they beat Kentucky, have the pleasure of facing the University of Connecticut, seemingly, in a 3-2 round of 16, Sweet 16 game. That game would take place in Connecticut, not on the official campus site of UConn and Storrs, but in Bridgeport. It's going to be a road game for the Hoosiers. And then if IU wins, they get a matchup against NC State. So it's going to be a very tough road here for IU, but kind of like what Matt was talking about a moment ago, hey, if you're going to go on a special tournament run, might as well slay some superpowers as you get to that point. So can't wait to see IU take the court Saturday and Monday. What a time of the year it is. Both the men's and women's basketball programs can be extremely proud of what they've accomplished especially the men's over the last couple of weeks. The women's program has done it from day one. They won the week. Of course, a reminder, if you'd like to subscribe to our podcast for free, all you have to do is search for the Hoosier Sound wherever you listen to podcasts. Stay up to date with all of our information by following us on Twitter at Indiana HQ and at the Hoosier Sound. If you enjoy our show, leave us a review, tell a friend, share our links. Your support really helps us grow this podcast and reach more passionate IU fans such as yourself. I see some good commentary in the live chat. Jack is in there. Admiral Seabass is in the live chat.
Admiral Seabass.
Yeah, I don't know. You wonder if that's Sebastian Janikowski. Maybe he's joining here in the NFL free agency period. Big Seabass fan, personally, can't lie. Jack says he thinks the Hoosiers will make it to the Sweet 16. Lock it in. Jack also said Parker Stewart played great defense. He really did. And that's the type of game where the numbers in the point column do not match the effectiveness of different players over the course of that game. The number that really stood out to me was the 10 in Hunter Maldonado's turnover spot. And that's the last we'll talk of Wyoming, probably for the remainder of this podcast history.
I'm so glad to never watch that team play basketball again. Like, what? Hi, let's run ISO post up every time down the court. Ugh.
Yeah, gross. Admiral Seabass, by the way, he did say he loves our podcast, Beat St. Mary's. Well, thank you for listening.
I love you, Admiral Seabass.
Yeah, I love, thank you for the appreciation. Again, tell your friends, share our links. That sort of stuff really does help us grow here going forward. St. Mary's, Matt, the Gales out of the West Coast Conference. Gonzaga is Batman in that league. St. Mary's is clearly Robin. They are easily the second best team in that league. BYU, San Francisco in that third tier. San Francisco is in the field as a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament. 3-bid league out of the West Coast conferences here. BYU's in the NIT. St. Mary's 25-7 on the season. Another mid-major program, a really good one. They're 18th in the AP poll, 16th in the KenPom ratings. A team that focuses on defense, on playing slowly. According to the books, Indiana is a 3-point underdog. The over-under is at 126.5. So the odds makers are predicting something like a 65-62 final score in favor of St. Mary's. Their coach is Randy Bennett, who has had the job since 2001. He's one of the longest tenured coaches in college basketball. What's interesting, Indiana and St. Mary's this year have both played Wisconsin, and they've both played Notre Dame. Indiana lost both games to Wisconsin. St. Mary's lost to Wisconsin. St. Mary's lost to Wisconsin 61-55. Indiana beat Notre Dame. St. Mary's beat Notre Dame. And St. Mary's knocked off the Fighting Irish 62-59. Matt, as you pay attention to this St. Mary's team, what stands out? Who are the key players? How can IU stop the Gales from coming out with the victory? And how can the Hoosiers advance to the round of 32?
Like you said, they play slow, but they're efficient. They're a good shooting team. They shoot 35% from three, and they have some people that shoot really well from three-point range. Mainly, their best player, Tommy Kuhse. It's spelled like Kuhse. Somehow he got it to say it like it's Bob Cousy. He's their point guard. He's the guy that runs their show. Guess what, guys? We're playing another 6th-year point guard again. Fantastic. Woo. He's a former walk-on, so way better than Jordan Bohannon ever was. He averages about 12 points per game, about 4 rebounds a game, about 4 assists, and he shoots 46% from three-point line. Now, he doesn't take a ton of three-pointers. I think he's only shot about 90-something this year. So he's a guy that picks his spots. When he shoots, it probably goes in. So it's going to be on whoever's guarding him tomorrow to make sure that, hey, let's not make sure he gets a spot, right? No spots for him because he's going to be making three-pointers on us if we do let him do that. Now, their leading scorer is not Tommy Kuhse. Their leading scorer is Matthias Tass. Is it Tass or Toss? I don't remember.
I think it's Toss.
Yeah. Matthias Toss. Yeah. He was from, I just pulled it up. He's from Estonia. And he averages about 13 points per game, He's not a 3-point threat, so we won't have any 6'10" white dudes shooting 3-pointers like Wyoming did last night. So Matthias Tass is a predominantly a low post player, along with I believe it is Mitchell. Is it Saxon?
Yep.
Are going to be their two forwards that we're going to see a lot down low matched up against Trayce. I think Trayce should eat them alive. This is a team that did beat Gonzaga this year. However, really struggled with guarding Gonzaga's bigs, especially what's his name?
Chet Holmgren.
Not Chet Holmgren. Luke Timme.
Drew Timme.
Drew Timme, yes. Not Luke Timme. Luke Timme is a basketball player or a football player. Drew Timme, Gonzaga center. They struggled guarding him basically the every single time they played them this year. So I like Trayce's matchup against him. Last two guys, I think you need to know because I think they'll be hitting 3-pointers on us, and nobody likes that. Alex Dukas.
Yep. Dukas. Rhymes to
10 points per game. He's their fourth scorer.
Yeah.
They have a four-headed monster. It's Toss, Kuzi, Johnson, and Dukas.
Yeah. And
Dukas shoots 38% from three, and Kyle Bowen, a guy they bring off the bench who plays a majority of the minutes over Dan Fotu, who starts. Kyle Bowen.
It's flipped. It's a Bowen starts, Fotu comes off the bench.
Kyle Bowen shoots 39% from three. So they have three really big 3-point threats, and two guys that really like to drive and get in the lane. They're a multifaceted offense, but they take it slow. They're a slow team. So there's somebody that's going to work it around the perimeter. Everybody's going to touch the ball on an offensive possession, and then they're going to try to work it into a set play at about like 13 seconds left on the shot clock, and try to eat away at the clock. That's what they do. They're not a good transition team. They're very vulnerable to getting, if they miss a shot, to transition. So that's something that IU should look to do with Xavier Johnson and Trayce and the rest of the crew. Get out and run, which I know is something Mike Woodson talked about wanting to do when he came in this year, and something that we have done this year quite well, like last night where we had way more transition points than Wyoming did. So I like our chances. Nithin, do you have anything else that I missed on the Wyoming preview, or sorry, St. Mary's preview?
Can't say the W word. We just.
I'm sorry. All right. We won't talk about it again, even though you said it was beautiful.
Yeah, well, Indiana outscored Wyoming 16-0 in the fast break yesterday. I think that's a good point you made, and that's going to be important here in order to steal some quick points. You know, St. Mary's doesn't turn it over. They play slowly. They play well on defense. So anytime you can jump out and get 3-on-2s, 3-on-1s, 2-on-1s, really have to convert those into points or at least free throw opportunities. St. Mary's is a fascinating team. Again, you know, this game probably is not going to get away from either team. I can see the entire thing being played plus or minus 6 points from zero. You know, yes. Both teams may have a 2-possession lead at some point, tops. I love the comments you made about Kuzi, about Toss, about Johnson, Dugas. You mentioned Kyle Bowen, who, again, is that fifth starter, may not be the focal point of the game plan. This year, Bowen has taken 102 3-pointers, just 39 2-pointers.
Yeah, so he only shoots threes. Yeah,
and he's very strong at that skill as well, at about 39% on the season. So keep an eye out. If I recall from the highlights that I watched, he has a big hair flow going on. Number 14 on St. Mary's College. Fun fact: before we really dive into the key details here, not sure if a lot of people know this. What is a gale? St. Mary, what is a gale?
It a bird?
It's not. So unfortunately, it's not more creative than this, but it's simply a name for someone of Irish or Scottish descent. And according to the St. Mary's College website, the name was originally bestowed on St. Mary's football team because there were so many Irishmen on the team. In true mascot form, the Gale is an Irish warrior. The St. Mary's Gale is an Irish warrior, representing the power of passion and hard work. And that's what this game's going to come down to, Matt. It's going to come down to passion and hard work. And I can't wait to see what Indiana shows on that front. St. Mary's in a lot of ways is Wyoming on steroids. I mean, it's sort of, if Wyoming is level 1, St. Mary's is level 2, slow, defensive oriented. They win on turnovers. I'm really looking forward to see Xavier Johnson win his matchup against Tommy Kuhse. Unlike Maldonado, who is 6'7", Kuhse, he's a 6'2", 185, more typical, prototypical point guard, physical traits. That's one where I see Johnson's physicality. I'm just envisioning already on Thursday night, those blow-by drives, 3 or 4 of them in the game where Johnson zooms right by Kuhse. And if you can get him or one of St. Mary's starters into foul trouble, that can really pay off for Indiana here on Thursday night's round of 64 games. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. It really does feel like, I know we sort of say Indiana's got a big 3. I think it's going to come down to the big 2. I think it's Xavier Johnson at point, Trayce Jackson-Davis at center. I'm looking forward to seeing those 2 guys combined for a large chunk of Indiana's offensive production, because by and large, there's not going to be much production. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this game goes. That's just part 1 of our preview. We're going to have more for you in just a minute. But first, it's time for a social media shout out. And hey, how about the IU baseball program, who, while we were all focusing on the basketball piece yesterday, the Hoosiers against Kentucky knocked off the Wildcats 20-7 at Bart Kaufman Field. What a win for the baseball program.
What a terrible day for pitching.
Yeah, well, it's maybe we have to launch an investigation into the baseball, not just the basketball used in yesterday's college events. It's been a little bit of a tough start for IU's baseball team this year, 7-9 on the season, but hey, potentially this type of resounding victory can help the Hoosiers get on a run. They are 4-0 this year at Bart Kaufman Field and have a 4-game set coming up starting Thursday against Xavier at home. So if you haven't gone out to Bart Kaufman Field to watch IU baseball play, make sure you spend some time and do that this upcoming week. Indiana's got a bunch of home games here. They're on a major home stand between now and April 5th. Head over to the ballpark if you're in the Bloomington area. It's a wonderful IU athletics experience. Would highly recommend that. On our end, if you haven't already, make sure you follow us at Indiana HQ, at the Hoosier Sound, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. Matt, on Instagram, we're not Indiana HQ, but what are we?
Indiana.HQ.
And we've had a ton of new followers here over the last week and a half, since really the start of the Big Ten tournament. Welcome to all of you who are newly on board. If you are aware of friends or family or classmates or strangers who haven't jumped on the train yet, make sure you give them a shout. Make sure you let them know that we're here for you. We've got, Jevin, our on-site correspondent, was at UD Arena last night to watch Indiana take on Dayton and cover the game and churn out post-game quotes from Mike Woodson and get content and footage from the first 4. And we're going to have the same case again in Portland coming up this weekend. Can't wait to see this team play against St. Mary's, Matt. Overall, before we really dive into the nitty-gritty, right? I know Indiana wants to face St. Mary's, but the way I think about it right now, Indiana's just playing the best basketball they've played all year. It seems crazy to me to say this, but I really do feel like at this point in the year, Indiana's either going to lose because of a half-court 3 off the backboard, or
don't you do this.
This ridiculous nonsense that Indiana has to deal with, where the NCAA, who, look, I'll give all of you a little background into my life. Personally, right, I have a business school background, marketing and management focus, and I put myself in the shoes of executives in the NCAA right now, and I have no idea what they're doing at NCAA headquarters. It makes absolutely no sense to force these players, when it could have been Wyoming too, right? Had Wyoming beaten Indiana, to force these players to make cross-court trips to play with not even 48 hours of rest, to go from Dayton to Portland and act as if you have the best interests of these student athletes involved. And I'm going to take a second, like that's egregious in itself. But can we just talk about what we witnessed on Tuesday night? Indiana, a high-profile basketball program, Wyoming, an up-and-coming mid-major basketball team, played the biggest game of their season at 9:30 p.m. local time on True TV, covered by a bunch of people who haven't watched much college basketball this year.
Oh my God, the announcing was awful.
What are we doing? And now you're forcing Indiana to get on this flight, and it's not an IU thing. It's just a college basketball thing. What is the NCAA doing? This is not the type of thing that's going to foster long-term attention and participation in college basketball. It's the same problem that I thought baseball failed to overcome 20 years ago. And I'm concerned that if the NCAA continues this trend, you're going to see the same situation with March Madness when 2040 or 2050 comes around, especially if a lot of players end up going pro by playing in Europe or overseas rather than playing college basketball. Matt, am I out of my mind here? Because what I saw yesterday, to find Indiana play its biggest game of the year on True TV, covered by a bunch of people who didn't pay attention to college. Why was I watching Rex Chapman and Candace Parker cover the team's pregame, halftime post? It made no sense.
I didn't mind the desk outside of Andy Katz and Mr. Sharpie, Seth Davis himself. Andy Katz was on the desk, but Andy Katz was tweeting with Seth Davis.
And Seth Davis is the only guy I was okay with, because
I hate Seth Davis. Seth Davis is so annoying.
He did pick Wyoming.
He's so annoying. I'd rather listen to Candace Parker, who's been there and done it before. Rex Chapman, who's been there and done it before. I'd rather listen to those two talk about it than damn.
Then I'd hear that. I'd rather hear them during the regular season than if it's so important. This game would have been better off either on Big Ten Network or CBS Sports Network that shows Mountain West broadcasts all year. Because what we saw yesterday was an absolute sham of a coverage. And again, perhaps the worst part of it, you're starting the biggest game, and it's happening again tonight with Notre Dame and Rutgers at 9:30. Yeah. What does that accomplish for anyone? I don't understand.
It doesn't. The NCAA doesn't care about the student athletes. Surprise. They don't. They say they do, but they really don't.
They don't care about their fans either.
They care about this. That's what they care about, marketing. And 9:30 for 30 minutes.
Short term. It's short-term money. It's not good for the long-term success.
No, of course not good for the long-term success. But when in business do businesses think about long-term success? Very rarely. You're looking for quick gains in order to talk to investors about investing more because, hey, look how much money we made in the last 6 months. So I don't got to tell you this, Nithin. You work in business. So
the number one rule of basketball should be allow fans to watch basketball.
Yes, and they don't. Also, I mean, it is kind of the first game's fault because they were scheduled to go on at 9:10, not 9:30.
8:30 is too late. I mean,
8:30 is too late? I don't think 8:30 is too late. I don't even think 9 o'clock is too late. I think 9:30 is pushing it. And I think 9:30 is especially pushing it and unacceptable when you have to fly after the game cross country. That one doesn't make any sense. They should have reversed the games. IU and Wyoming should have gone first so they could get out first, and the second game could play because they're flying back home to Texas anyway. Both of them are from Texas, and they're going back to play Kansas in Texas.
In Fort Worth. It makes no sense. I just think at the end of the day, right? And it's not just the NCAA tournament either. Remember, ESPN at the end of the regular season received a lot of criticism, rightfully so, because they poorly scheduled their college basketball Saturday. Fans who were looking forward to watching IU and Purdue on ESPN couldn't watch that game for the first 10 minutes because the preceding game went over. And then Coach K's farewell game at Duke wasn't able to be viewed by a large percentage of people because the preceding Texas-Kansas game went into overtime. So just poor planning from the executives who make these decisions. I can't wait for changes to happen here in the next year or two to come. I did see the viewership ratings were high. Then again, though, Indiana fans are going to watch it. It's just ridiculous that the game started at 9:30. But Matt, St. Mary's, look, we've talked about the matchups. I think both you and I agree Xavier Johnson, Trayce Jackson Davis are going to be incredibly important. Some additional numbers for everyone to know. St. Mary's does a very good job as far as limiting their turnovers. Their turnover rate is 15% this year, but they also do a good job of forcing teams to turn over the basketball. Their opposing turnover rate, 17.6%. They really force teams to give it up. Of course, though, in a mid-major schedule, maybe slightly different context there. 3-point rate is another interesting number. So St. Mary's has an opponent's 3-point rate of just 29%. What does that mean? Out of every 100 shots their opponent takes, only 29 of them are from three. So Matt, St. Mary's does a really good job of forcing teams off the 3-point line. But what's interesting is
that's good. We like that.
I think for IU that actually helps their cause.
Yeah, exactly. No threes, please.
And so you might definitely see Xavier Johnson get into the lane, Race Thompson and Trayce Jackson Davis score inside. I would expect another low output from Miller Kopp, Parker Stewart, Tamar Bates from a scoring standpoint. But as we've talked about consistently on this episode, a lot of basketball has to do with parts of the game outside of scoring. So looking forward to seeing Indiana do that. I expect IU to once again try 10 players. I think that's Mike Woodson's objective here. So many games in such a short time. I think he likes keeping his players fresh. But one point I did want to make, Matt, the great part about Trayce Jackson Davis's recent spurt has not only been his production, but his availability. And I'm excited to see that continue going forward. So Matt, as overall you look at this, any final thoughts as far as St. Mary's is concerned before we dive into our prediction?
Any final thoughts? I don't want to see Kuzi get comfortable tomorrow because I feel like that would be the worst possible outcome. I know you mentioned that you wanted Xavier Johnson and Trayce to have the big games, and I agree. But I think coming off a last game, I want to see Race Thompson. If it happens to be his last game in a Hoosier uniform, I would like to see him go out with a classic Race Thompson game. I have a feeling that Race Thompson is going to get that against a St. Mary's team, which we're going to need his defense and his hustle and a little bit of his, glue guyness on offense. So I'm
so
team Race Thompson tomorrow.
So with that said, I'm looking forward to that happening as well. These two teams, you've looked at them, you read about them.
Yep.
It's such a short buildup to such a big game. As I mentioned, Indiana, 3-point underdog, projected to fall in this contest, 65-62. Who do you have winning and by how much?
Indiana wins tomorrow.
Oh!
I know, crazy.
Wow. What's the score?
Indiana wins tomorrow, 66-60.
There you go. Wow. Indiana, Matt, is going to move on to the round of 32 in your eyes.
I think so. I have IU in my bracket going to the Sweet 16.
Hey, you and Jack out there. How about that? Admiral Seabass, by the way, commenting on Rex Chapman's outfit and the fact that the second half didn't start until 10:45. The end of the game dragged on as well. Absolutely obnoxious.
I like Rex Chapman's outfit. Let's cool with the Rex Chapman slander. I know Rex Chapman's from Kentucky. I get that. We don't like people from Kentucky.
To do with that.
Or Rex
Chapman
fine.
Just whatever. We're not even going to go there anymore. I have Indiana winning too. Matt. I think it's going to be a really disgusting basketball game once again. As I mentioned, I don't think either team's going to take more than a 6-point lead. I don't think either team's going to crack 60 points tomorrow. I have a final score. It's going to be one of those really hilarious. I think Wisconsin and Penn State once played a game in the 30s a few years ago. I don't think it's going to be that bad. But I do have Indiana winning this one 56-53. I think the lock of the century is that this game's going to go under. I can't wait to eat my words. But as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be funny when this thing goes, 88-84. But
that's not happening. That is not happening.
And so, I mean, it's funny to see how all that plays out. Just two keys, though. Indiana's got to win the turnover battle. St. Mary's turned it over 13 times against Wisconsin and 16 times against Notre Dame. Overall, this year, they've been good protecting the ball, but they can give it away if a defense forces those mistakes. Also, Indiana's got to keep St. Mary's off the free throw line. They don't really take too many free throws. Indiana has that propensity to foul. That's going to be a key matchup in this one. I'm expecting Indiana to keep St. Mary's off the charity stripe. We'll see if IU can do that. It's important because when St. Mary's does get to the line, they hit 77% on the season. So, Matt, as we wind down here, Thursday night, Indiana plays St. Mary's. We'll probably have a podcast episode on Friday. This is all very fluid. We're going to keep them coming fast and furious as long as Indiana keeps winning. Perhaps at that point on Friday, we'll have a match between UCLA or Akron to talk about. As we wind down here, March 16th, Indiana won an NCAA tournament game, mostly controlling it from start to finish, and now they face one of the premier mid-major teams in college basketball in St. Mary's.
Yes, I do. I am excited. I can't wait to watch it tomorrow. I can't wait for us to have a podcast on, knock on wood, on Friday, talking about the matchup on Saturday. And yeah, all good news, all good stuff. And even if we do lose tomorrow, let's say we do lose tomorrow, this is still a successful season.
100%.
If Trayce Jackson-Davis does not come back, we wish him all the best in the NBA. And he has cemented his legacy as one of the best players to play for the Hoosiers in the last 30 years. And if it's Race Thompson last game, we're going to miss him a lot, all along the lines, right? So a lot of stuff happening tomorrow. Obviously, I don't have to tell you that. I'm just super, super pumped to see the Hoosiers along with everybody else. Tomorrow is Christmas, right? Tomorrow's the best night of the year. I am so excited.
It's going to be absolutely outstanding. That was what I was going to talk about. Generally speaking, right? I mean, we've had 4 months of college basketball to digest and to build up to tomorrow.
Yep.
And for a lot of teams, none of that's going to matter. Depends on what happens in the round of 64. So buckle up. I don't think it's that case for Indiana. As you said, a lot of big wins this year, broke a lot of big slumps. Already a success because he made the tournament, won in the Big Ten tournament. But it is the case for a lot of schools like St. Mary's, I believe, where if they lose tomorrow, it's going to be a really disappointing year. One last fact I forgot to mention, St. Mary's has not played since March 8th. Indiana's played 4 full games since that time. So another interesting aspect to keep in mind here. Going into the round of 64, Hoosiers and Gales, 2 very strange team names matching up Thursday night in Portland. Can't wait to see how it all goes down. But that about wraps it up for our 246th show of the Hoosier Sound. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support. Thank you to our live audience. You are all beautiful people. To hear more fantastic episodes like the one you heard today, be sure to follow us at Indiana HQ to make sure you don't miss any in the future. You can also go to our website, indianahq.com, to find it all in one place. But as always, thank you for listening, Hoosier Nation, and we will see you next time.
Peace and love.